Christian refugees wonder what's next for them under the Trump administration.
Why one of Chicago's tourist attractions is gaining regional and nationwide recognition.
And we take a look at a festival that has people of all ages flying high in the Windy City.
All those stories and more
coming up on the Northwestern News Report. It's your Chicago news right now.
Good evening and welcome to the special Chicago Show edition of the Northwestern News Report. I'm Maddie Coe.
And I'm Isabel Lawrence. Thanks for joining us. President Trump is on his first foreign trip visiting major religious sites in Jerusalem and beyond. This isn't the first time religion is a hot topic for his administration. Back in January, he signed an executive order that banned travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries.
It also suspended the refugee admissions program for 120 days, but one contested provision specified who would receive priority when the program started again. NNN's Michelle Beck has more.
To be a bit more specific, the provision was about prioritizing the refugee claims made by persecuted religious minorities, and that includes Christians from many countries in the Arab world. This was a point of conflict even for the Arab American Christians I spoke to. Now, the revised executive order omits this point, but there is a question that still remains for many Americans, and that's what will the Trump administration do in the future for persecuted Christians?
St. George Antiochian Orthodox Church is a place of worship and a home to believers who've traveled far to get here. Within the church nestled in the city of Cicero, immigrants from Iraq come together with asylees from Syria under the care of head priest Nicholas Dowdall from the West Bank. He denounced the president's prioritization of Christian refugees.
I don't want to have favors as a Christian. I'm not looking for favors.
A nonprofit that monitors levels of Christian persecution, called Open Doors, classifies the condition in countries like Syria, Iran, and Iraq as extreme. While persecution in the Middle East is certainly not limited to Christians, worldwide persecution of Christians has risen for the 4th year in a row, according to Open Doors. Judge Bill Haddad, who formerly served in the Circuit Court of Cook County, acknowledges the level of persecution for people of his own faith, but questions the president's intentions.
We're not fools. We know why he did it. It was code for discrimination against Muslims who wish to come to this country. It wasn't to protect Christians.
But Jim Jacobson, the president of an organization that provides aid to the religious group, has some hope for persecuted Christians.
We're very confident that President Trump will continue to do the right thing and do more for persecuted Christians over these next 4 years. So we're very optimistic and very hopeful.
But if protecting persecuted Christians means putting down other groups, Father Nicholas foresees only negative consequences.
If you only treat the Christians to come here and you leave everybody else, you create animosity between the Christians and everybody else. So that does not help us either.
According to the revised executive order, when the 120 days are over, and that's sometime in July, the United States will resume the travel of refugees into the country. Back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. Follow us on social media and we'll keep you updated on what happens when those 120 days are up. Look out, New York and San Francisco. Chicago has you beat. A study last summer ranked Chicago as the most profitable city for startup companies. NNN's Nikki Kaplan has more on the study and where 2 companies are now.
Nearly half of Chicago's startups become worth 10 times more than the money initially invested in them, according to June 2016 data from PitchBook, a company that provides businesses statistics to aid their decisions. Up-and-coming Chicago businesses Spot Hero and Home Chef are on the journey to contribute to these high figures. Spot Hero is a mobile app that reserves parking spots for drivers. Co-founder and CEO Mark Lawrence says it is Chicago's stable job atmosphere that is advancing the service's success.
So when you get a real good cohesive group of people working on the same problem all together, magic can happen.
Anthony Broad Crawford, Chief Product Officer at Spot Hero, says Chicago companies' emphasis on value gives them a competitive advantage.
The pride, right, and the focus here in the Midwest, as well as not just solving hard technology problems, but making sure it provides real value.
Home Chef, a meal kit delivery service, also attributes its success to Chicago's environment. The city's central location allows its 2-day shipping zone to include the entire Midwest and East Coast, leading to fast growth and a West Coast expansion. Home Chef product manager Paulina Boonman said she is shocked by the company's fast increase in the number of meals it ships weekly.
My very first day, I think we were shipping 8,000 boxes, and now we are shipping almost 100,000 boxes. So we've grown over 10 times in the past 2 years.
Though both companies are still working to contribute to Chicago Startup's high profit ranking, Lawrence says 2017 is promising.
I feel like I've worked all these years to have a year like this year.
Investors will have to wait and see. Nikki Kaplan, Northwestern News Report.
The San Francisco Bay Area is still considered the nation's most active place for startup companies, but Chicago may be catching up. And the city is definitely investing in greener startups. Matt Zidun has more on that in this week's Money Minute. Matt?
Well, that's right, Maddie. Even though Illinois Democrats and Republicans have yet to agree on how to fix the state's 2-year budget stalemate, they have found common ground when it comes to the environment. In recent years, the state has encouraged investment in clean energy companies, and that effort has paid off. According to a study by the Brookings Institution, Chicago has enticed venture capitalists to invest just over $600 million in local clean technology firms over the past 5 years. Most of that money has gone toward Chicago's bustling bioenergy startup scene. Chicago now ranks 10th on the list of U.S. metropolitan areas with the most clean tech investment, behind San Francisco, San Jose, Boston, and Los Angeles. Together, these 10 areas account for about 3/4 of all clean tech venture capital investment in the U.S. This investment comes after Illinois lawmakers passed the Future Energy Jobs Act back in December. The bill, which garnered bipartisan support, will create a whopping $15 billion in private investment in clean energy over the next 20 years. The bill also mandates that $200 million per year be spent on building new solar and wind facilities in Illinois. Last year, job growth in the U.S. clean energy sector was 9%. That outpaced growth in the fossil fuel sector. Most economists agree clean energy growth in the U.S. is key to economic growth overall. With Money Minute, I'm Matt Zidun.
Coming up, we'll take you to one of America's fastest growing tourist destinations.
A meeting space, a playground, an arts campus, a garden. Some of the things that make Millennium Park the Midwest's most visited attraction. But what else? NNN's Caitlin Boudreau went downtown to find out what makes the park so popular.
Whether you visit often,
it's our fourth time we are in Chicago. Yeah.
Or this is your first experience.
He's never been to the Bean.
Nope, this is my first time.
Something about Millennium Park draws you in.
The architecture here is so unique. I've never seen that anywhere in the world.
So unique, in fact, that Millennium Park is now the most popular tourist destination in the Midwest, overcoming Navy Pier for the first time in its history. In the first half of 2016 alone, a record 13 million guests visited the park.
It's a beautiful outdoor park, kind of like, Central Park in New York. For us, it's here in Chicago.
Dedicated in 2004, the park has grown substantially in the past 20 years. The 24-acre park, once a rail yard, now includes famous attractions like the Instagrammable Cloud Gate, better known as the Bean. Visitors like Willie Volk from San Francisco say the photographs don't do it justice.
It's much bigger than I thought it would be. I didn't know I could walk underneath it.
And Cloudgate is just one part of what makes the area a city icon.
Beautiful architecture, nice people, good food, and today, great weather.
Yeah.
The city also prides Millennium Park on its year-round cultural programming. From classical concerts to open art installations to Chicago's acclaimed Art Institute, the Millennium Park campus is a cultural hub unlike any other Chicago destination.
We went to the Art Institute, spent the morning there, and then decided to have lunch in the park and walked around. So,
Chicago as a whole broke records last year too, welcoming over 54 million visitors citywide. Caitlin Boudreau, Northwestern News Report.
The park is now in the top 10 tourist sites nationwide, along with Central Park and the National Mall.
Another popular attraction is having a big birthday. Navy Pier celebrates its 100th this year and brings several changes with the milestone. NNN's Hyo-Jung Kim took a trip to the pier to learn more.
Take 2 visits to Navy Pier a year apart and you may notice new changes. The new Polk Brothers Park and an expansion of the award-winning Shakespeare Theater are just part of the Centennial Vision, which was launched by Navy Pier in 2016 to implement new entertainment, food experiences, and events in honor of the attraction's 100th birthday celebration. The celebration is hard for visitors to forget, as signs appear on every corner of the pier, including on the eye of the pier's biggest draw.
I was just surprised when I came here that there's a 100th-year sign in the Ferris wheel. So now I know. Yeah.
Even with the changes, visitors said their favorite part of the pier still remains the same.
The Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel, of course. That's what everybody sees every time we're driving on Lakeshore Drive. Yeah.
But now, with the new wave-ball stairs and seating area, a modernized family park, and the renovated Ferris wheel, there is more than just a good view of Chicago to attract tourists. Hyojung Kim, Northwestern News Report.
Navy Pier is still partly under construction, but will soon unveil more arts and entertainment as one of Chicago's top tourist attractions.
Coming up, a new theater on the South Side sets the scene for Chicago tradition. Stephen Colbert, Tina Fey, and Bill Murray all got their start with improv comedy at Second City. But what came before Second City? The art form was actually invented on Chicago's South Side. NNN's Meredith Sonnefeld visited the Revival Theater in Hyde Park.
Forget Chicago-style pizza and hot dogs, the Revival Theater in Hyde Park serves up Chicago-style improv, complete with audience participation.
Can I please get a suggestion of a location?
And theater games. The Revival Theater has only been open since 2015, but it is more rooted in history than it might appear. Founder of the Revival, John Stoops, opened the theater to bring Chicago-style improv back to its birthplace.
The art form itself was invented, if we're being completely literal, about 10 feet on the other side of this brick wall. In 1955, by a group called the Compass Players.
Inspired by popular theater games, students at the University of Chicago started the Compass Players to develop political cabarets. The director of comedy studies at Second City, Ann Libera, says this content reacted to the week's headlines.
And they wanted to use that as a way of creating immediate theater that spoke to the concerns of the audience that was in the room.
Soon, these political cabarets transformed into comedy cabarets.
This third act, where they created material in front of an audience, was generating material that they wanted to do again.
In 1959, the Compass Players separated. That December, one of the members, Paul Sills, moved north to open Second City right here in Chicago's Old Town neighborhood.
There was always, particularly in Old Town, a sort of intelligentsia audience, theater goers, people who wanted to come see things.
For Stoops, when the group moved north, the audience changed, and so did the content.
One thing that happened when it migrated north, suddenly the folks on stage, the folks in the seats, not particularly reflective of the city as a whole.
Wanjiku Kairu, an ensemble member, says the Revival is special because it is one of the only improv comedy theaters on the South Side.
I think it's great. There's so many opportunities here, and there's a huge audience too. So it's a difference between, being in one really oversaturated area up north or being in an area where people actually have only a few theaters to go to.
Stoops says the Revival is proud to showcase South Side artists and stories. Meredith Sonnefeld, Northwestern News Report.
These groups are not just doing improv for the laughs, but also to improve performances in other professions. Be sure to head to our website, nntv.org, for more on their recent projects.
Over the past few weeks, we've taken you through Evanston's latest food trends. Now we take a look at one of the food crazes sweeping Chicago. Our Alex Letterman has more.
Do not come near my donut. These words seem to be more common in Chicago these days, as the donut craze has blown into the Windy City.
Before I started working here, I never ate donuts. I didn't know what the hype was about donuts until I started working here, where people just come in here. They don't just buy one, they buy, 6, 5 donuts.
And these donuts aren't the Krispy Kreme you grew up with. I mean, I love a classic Lay's, but I mean, look at how fancy this Boston cream is. And then you have this peanut butter jelly and my personal favorite, banana Nutella Bismarck.
And as more and more donut shops pop up around Chicago, residents say they've noticed the pastry seemingly everywhere.
Where I work, there's like a donut shop on every corner almost, and when we want desserts or like have a company event, I noticed my bosses just keep bringing in freaking donuts.
And as the donut business has grown, it's branched out to new audiences. Chicago native Marissa Huggins used to avoid the pastry because she's a vegan, but now...
I really like their vegan donut. It's like actually really good.
But one audience the donut industry hasn't yet conquered, the health-oriented. Vasquez dreams to combine his love of donuts with his love of fitness to one day open his own donut shop in the growing market.
People need an alternative to just, donuts that contain carbs, something more healthy along those lines.
Alex Letterman, Northwestern News Report.
And now trends in the food industry seem to be merging, as one Chicago restaurant has released a sushi donut. Up, up, and away. Coming up, we give you a look at a high-flying tradition along Lake Michigan.
The clock is winding down for players who participated in the NBA Combine here in Chicago, a showcase for college basketball players looking to join the draft. NNN's Katie Winge talked to some of these players about what they hope for their futures in basketball.
Of the 75 players on the roster here at the NBA Combine in Chicago, 14 of them came in without an agent. And here's what that means. Those guys have until May 24th to make a decision whether they're going to declare for the draft or go back to school. Frank Jackson of Duke already decided he's declaring for the draft after just one day of action here in Chicago. But as for the rest of them, I asked them what the opportunity is like to test the waters of the pros and what's going to go into their decision.
I just feel like I belong here. And I know I'm going to go every day and prove that.
You have that dream growing up your whole life. You can't sleep because of that dream. And it still seems so far, even though I'm at the Combine right now.
I'm trying to enjoy the process. I got invited here, so it means a lot of guys that have potential to be out here, and I'm able to play in this league.
For the players, you can get your feedback from the source, the actual source, and you can gather information to see what's best for you and your family.
Another rare breed in this group, guys who are listed as seniors that completed all 4 years of eligibility before declaring for the draft. There are 17 of them that fall into that category, and most of them think it's actually an advantage.
I went through it all. I played the highest level and then a lot of experience. And also I became a leader this year, so I got leadership under my belt.
If I had the choice to buy a machine and one already had 4 years on its life, you'd probably buy the younger machine, but then that's when you read the fine print, you find out, the other machine works better, lasts longer, it's already equipped, you don't have to spend extra money adding things to it.
Not just staying 1 year and going pro, I got a lot of experience and mileage and played different roles without them 4 years that I know will help me at the next level.
The future of these guys will be decided on Draft Night 2017, which is June 22nd. Reporting in Chicago, I'm Katie Winge.
We'll see where those players end up in the coming weeks and hope they don't cause too much trouble for our Chicago Bulls.
If there is one thing tourists complain about when visiting Chicago, it's the wind. But locals are finding a way to harness the breeze. NNN's Anika Henniger brings us the scoop on a Windy City tradition.
Nate Williams is a seasoned kite flyer who earned his 34 years of experience heading into the wind.
I didn't want anybody to see a grown man flying a kite, and I quickly found out that flying those sport kites was not anything that you could keep a secret.
But for children gathered to watch Williams and his team perform on Chicago's Cricket Hill, growing up to fly kites like them is nothing to be ashamed of. The Windjammers, as the 8-person team is known, one of the oldest kite teams in the country, performed their synchronized flying shows at the 19th annual Chicago Kids in Kites Festival. Williams, the group's founder, says while their high-flying tricks are invited all over the world, South Korea, Jamaica, France, the Windjammers could never pass up Chicago.
Bottom line, we just like flying kites. They pay us, but we would probably do it for nothing.
Which is one reason the event is free of charge, and local parents like Nathan Dant keep coming back every year.
Especially in the city, it's so easy to go watch TV or go indoors somewhere.
Dant's son Carter said that even with the face painting and treats, piloting his own kite was the best part.
I enjoyed how to learn how.
And teaching how to handle the gust, untangle the problems, and soar a kite towards the clouds is a local lesson Father Sean McCormick couldn't wait to pass down.
Something I grew up doing. Want to share that with my kids.
But surfing the winds wasn't easy for the aerial experts either.
Sometimes we make mistakes, and then we'll include it in our routine because it looks so good.
So good that about 15,000 came to watch the colorful kites dance in the Chicago sky. Anika Henniger, Northwestern News Report.
The Windjammers are not the only team Chicagoans can watch. The Windy City's very own Chicago Fire kite team will be performing at the Chicago Botanic Garden on August 12th.
We've shown you our biggest Chicago stories, but we wanted to know what yours are. We'll find out after the break. We wanted to know what you thought this year's biggest story in Chicago was.
So we asked you in this week's special edition of Rock Talk.
Probably the Chicago public school system and the challenges to the system.
Cubs winning, obviously.
Well, the Cubs.
The Cubs winning.
Blackhawks lost in the playoffs.
Maybe Northwestern going to the NCAA tournament.
Politics in Chicago.
Well, I hope we get a new governor. The people running are good, I think.
I suppose Radner in the budget.
You do hear a lot about the crime on the south side.
Well, it has to be all the killings in Chicago.
I guess you'd have to say the violence, the shootings, the guns, the killings, the lack of control of such a major part of the city.
Trump thinking that he needs to call Armageddon here or something.
The population is decreasing faster here than any other major city.
I think the last Kanye West album.
If you have a future Rock Talk topic, tweet at us at NNN_news. And that's all the time we have for tonight. I'm Isabel Lawrence.
And I'm Maddie Coe. Thank you for watching this special Chicago Show edition of the Northwestern News Report. Good night.